The news is screaming bullish. Nvidia just poured $2 billion into Synopsys to lock down the future of chip design. They are deepening their alliance with AWS to create the world's most powerful AI factories. But looking at the chart, the stock price isn't flying. While the market is fixated on insider selling and the rumor that their biggest clients, Google and Meta, are secretly plotting to steal their crown. The headlines tell us the bull story, but the price action, however, reveals a deeper conflict, a battle between unquestionable AI dominance and the looming threat of client competition. So, where does Nvidia go from here? Let's find out. So, alright traders, here we are on an hourly chart of Nvidia, and the reasoning as to why I'm not using a daily is because I want to get a closer picture, a closer perspectives on the overall chart of Nvidia and what it has been doing over the past couple of trading sessions. So we can see here that obviously the date today is December 3rd and it's Wednesday, but we are currently actually below a lot of key indicators, right? So we had the high that was formed here on the 29th of October and we sold off from the $210 level. So I decided to place an anchored VWAP from this high to get the average price of entry of those market participants, and the average short is actually short the name at around $189 per share. And we are obviously below that, and we can see that each time that we try to rally, each single time we actually rejected that very important level here. So we rallied here, we found rejection at that anchored VWAP. We try to rally again, right, and then we rejected again here. The most recent one was on the 19th of October, actually a little bit before the earnings, where we had exactly after the sell-off here. But I believe that the more touches that an overall level has, so for example, here we had, let's see, 1 touch, 2 touches, 3 touches. This might be the 4th if we do get, this continuation. Nvidia is looking pretty bullish right now so far. But if we do get this continued momentum, it will suffice to break this area of resistance and also finally get above the 200 EMA here. So we have the 200 line here, which we are below. We found resistance. We are actually defending the 50. So what I believe now is that we'll be seeing something like this over the next coming of trading sessions. Maybe some consolidation. We bid up, right? We find a little bit of resistance at that anchored VWAP, right? And then the pullback will be not as intense, maybe a little bit like here, and then we see that upward momentum, and then like this, right? The formation of the higher highs and higher lows, which do form that structure of the uptrend, right? So it would be now above this resistance zone, so it would be like that, right? So it would be above, and then we would initiate the long position exactly at this break, so around here, when the overall transition from the sellers to buyers being in control occurs, and we can be more confident in our position, right? So it's very important to be entering, especially with momentum here. So also as well, something I want to acknowledge here is that after the earnings, the volume has been quite volatile, right? We've seen some selling, but there's been a lot of emergence of buying, right? So we see this little cluster here. If we kind of look at it, this cluster, a lot of buyers came in, right? I think that's where they started to form this kind of low around this area, general zone around $176. Then we look at the most recent area here, right here, this pocket. This is where the buyers came in on this day, very, very intense, which was a formation of the higher low right here. So kind of showing us that this may be the initiation of that upward trend, like I said, right? And then we had another area right here, which is where we continued, and actually that's where we found the resistance at the 200 EMA. Something also that we can use here to acknowledge when the buyers are going to be having control on Nvidia stock is using, like I said, the here, the fixed range volume profile. So we drag it from the anchored VWAP, right, all the way toward the current trading session, and we see that the price that the buyers have to get above actually here is actually the $180 level, right? So during this time, if the buyers get above it, we are long. If we are below it, then the sellers were in control, just how this occurred here around this general zone. The sellers were in control because we were below that area. Even we saw a lot of battle here, the point of control, a lot of selling compared to the buying here. But now if we do get above it, then the buyers will be in control, and yet we will find a little bit of resistance because we do have those pockets of liquidity, some volume here. That's for example here around this zone. So this general zone of around 192, 193 is where there's a lot of resistance to be found. So this is where it's actually forming confluence or matching with the anchored VWAP here from that swing high. So I'd be looking for a quick rally towards 190 before we find that pullback again, and then try to break above the areas of resistance. Now, if we look at the intraday, the 5-minute chart, looking at this chart, we see the following. So let me just include the extended trading hours here on Nvidia and look at what it's doing on the day. So here we are. Obviously, we are kind of forming a little bit of a bearish cross over. We are rejecting. We kind of sold off a little bit in the pre-market. We found a little bit of resistance. We had the support area, but we failed it. Although buyers came in at this low of 179, and I believe that's a very important level because it was a pivot point. So if we kind of remove, let's say, the 200 EMA on the 5-minute chart, and let's say we add the pivot point right here, pivot point standard. We do that. That is where the buyers came in and found that support, and we've been moving a little bit higher, right? So what we can do is obviously plot an anchored VWAP and see it hold this level. So we may see a retracement towards 180 and find that upward momentum with Nvidia today being able to possibly achieve the levels of 182, and if there's a lot of bullishness, 184. If we, let's say, continue to see the sell-off, then we'll see a rejection here, and levels will possibly go towards, like I said, 179, and then even deeper, obviously, towards S2, which is going to be around $176 here on Nvidia. Apart from that, I do believe that on the long term, Nvidia is still bullish. I still contain my price target, but yet the negative catalysts are starting to come into the stock. For example, the overvaluation, the AI trade, and more specifically, emerging competition from like Google and Meta here. So as long as Nvidia defends their moat, they should be well off, and my price target will still be remained towards the $250 price target on Nvidia. Overall, investor sentiment is starting to get mixed signals. With Nvidia's moat being threatened by Google and the majority of the Max 7, can Nvidia actually hold these levels and expand at these very high growth rates? Only time will tell. What do you think? Does Nvidia have the potential to be weakened by Google? Let me know down in the comment section below your comments, and also give this video a like, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and remember, don't let the markets whip you guys out. I'll see you guys on the next one.